Changes. A review of the Omaha Symphony concert. October 10, 2021. By William Ford. www.atlantamusiccritic.com. Of course, a constant of being human is that change is always in the air. It is October and the temperatures and leaves are falling. Change happens not only for people, it happens in our communities and institutions. Omaha is no exception, it is growing and changing and building and rebuilding. The venerable, beautiful Jocelyn Art Museum is adding significant new space with an addition designed by the Norwegian architect Snetter. The Omaha Symphony is also changing with the appointment of its new music director Ankush Kumar Bahel, whose goal is to introduce more music to Omaha by a group of diverse American composers. All of this change came together on Sunday when the Omaha Symphony returned to an under-construction Jocelyn Museum to play a program that included a work by an American woman. Yet the Art Deco auditorium of the Witherspoon Concert Hall was isolated, at least for a while, from the changes happening outside of its four walls. The all-strings program began with the 2008 Leyendas, an Andean walkabout by Peruvian Jewish-Chinese-Lithuanian-American composer Gabriela Lena Frank. Leyendas pays homage to the Peruvian part of her identity. Like many composers before her, she draws upon the folk music traditions of her heritage and reinvents them using the techniques of Western art music. According to her description of the piece, she is attempting to show how cultures can coexist without the subjugation of one by another. The performance in Omaha was an arrangement for string orchestra of an earlier version for string quartet. Unless one is familiar with Peruvian music and culture, the music must stand by itself without judgments about how well it reflects the composer's intent. The work must be heard with all of its dissonances, complexities, and challenges, regardless of judgments about whether it successfully brings Peru into an American concert hall. The score did provide a challenge to the musicians. For example, in the second section titled Tarcada, the violins employ pizzicato or plucked strings and harmonics or touching the string lightly while bowing. At times there were ensemble problems and the harmonics were slightly out of tune. The acoustics of the Witherspoon are rather dry, so errors seem amplified. Next was Bach's Concerto for Oboe d'amore, strings and Continuo in a major, BWV 1055A, with the orchestra's principal oboe, Alexandra Rock, as soloist. The Oboe d'amore is slightly larger than today's oboe, and it produces less sonic volume. The concerto is in 3 movements, beginning with a lively ritornello, followed by a dirge-like larghetto. The piece ends with a dance-like allegro. The performance of the second movement seemed to lose momentum and direction for both the orchestra and the soloist. Overall, the performance had occasional missed notes and sometimes the orchestra and the soloist were not quite together. Balances between the orchestra and soloist were also occasionally off. After the intermission, Maestro Bahel led the orchestra is lush and warm performance of Elgar's 1892 Serenade in E minor for strings. This late romantic work begins with an allegro that invokes the English countryside, as Elgar often did in his music. The movement includes a viola solo, nicely performed here. The second movement is a very pastoral larghetto. The finale movement recaps the previous 2 movements and is marked allegretto. The strings of the Omaha Symphony played beautifully throughout, and the occasional ensemble problems that appeared in the first 2 works of the program were entirely absent here. The final work was Benjamin Britten's 1933 Simple Symphony. This work in 4 movements is fairly brief, but is full of generous melodies and harmonies. The second movement is titled Playful Pizzicato, and the violins executed the passages with precision. The third movement, Sentimental Saraband, is a richly realized sad slow reflection that under Bahel's direction never became maudlin or treacly. The final movement, Frolicsome Finale, is full of buzzing energy. Bahel kept tight control, so the performance was powerful and never excessive. This was a fine concert on an autumn afternoon that reflected a changing Omaha Symphony in a city that seems to be changing daily. It was an adventurous program played with dedication, and led with a steady hand by Maestro Ankush Kumar Bahel.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and turn on notifications. Join at www.patreon.com